Heading south down I-45, just miles out from Galveston, sits a massive mall structure. But it may shock you to learn that this is not a mall. This is an outdoor entertainment facility with a gym, trampoline park, wedding venue, and oddly enough, a school and even a large church. But the building feels familiar. It looks like a mall. It's large with a massive surrounding parking lot, the distinct design features of an 80s mall entrance, or even the massive arches of a Dillard's, or the triangular peak of a Sears entrance. This looks like a mall, but none of that is here. There is no mall here, but there once was, and it was the perfect neon dream mall. Today, all that remains of Mall of the Mainland is its repurposed shell, its new identity as Mainland City Centre. But if you know where to look and use your imagination, you'll see the little clues as to what once was, the subtle reminders of an era gone by. Mall of the Mainland has a truly interesting history. Built at the peak of the American mall boom, struggling throughout the 2000s, closing for good in 2014, left for abandonment and decay, but eventually reborn into a rather interesting space. Today we're going to look at the history, the rise and fall of Houston's Neon Dream Mall, and we'll even stop by the mall to try and see what remains. This is the story of Mall of the Mainland. The story starts out as a joint venture, the M.G. Herring Group and the Edward J. DeBartolo Corp. If you know anything about the rise and fall of the American Mall, that DeBartolo name may sound familiar. Yeah, he owned the San Francisco 49ers, but he also was once responsible for some of the United States' most infamous abandoned malls. Out of the dozen or so malls he built or owned, names like Randall Park or Century 3 may stick out, both at one point in their lives the biggest malls in the country. Randall Park and Century 3's reputation moved on from size and stores, and rather to their abandonment in the 2000s, both of which became some of the most well-known abandoned structures in the world, and both of which are now gone. But anyway, Mall of the Mainland was never meant to be like that. It wasn't built for size, but rather quality. It was said that the developers spent $200 per square foot. One of the mall's future owners would go on to say that figure was, quote, a hefty sum. That means the developers constructed a high-quality mall, end quote. And it truly was. The mall was beautiful. The mall featured expansive skylights trimmed with warm light bulbs and long strips of blue and red neon. The center food court skylight even featured teak wood planks, adding a warmer feel to the space, which luckily these wood planks are still here today. The M.G. Herring Group bought the 122-acre plot of land all the way back in 1978, but it was shortly thereafter when Houston fell into the mall boom. Deerbrook Mall and the now abandoned West Oaks Mall having been credited for shelving the project. But finally, in 1989, construction on the mall would begin. The mall would open at 768,000 square feet on March 20th, 1991. The mall was anchored by Sears, which had moved from the Galveston's Galvez Mall, JCPenney, which had relocated from its standalone store in downtown Texas City, and Dillard's, who along with Sears had purchased their share of the land way before construction even began. The mall also opened with a Cinemark movie theater. The mall was off to a rough start though, opening with just 52% occupancy. By the end of the year, the mall had reached 60% occupancy. The mall sat steadily at that number for quite a while. Things started to look up for the mall when in 1994, Foley's purchased a piece of the land and constructed a massive 2-story store in front of the mall. By the end of the year, Mall of the Mainland would hit its peak. The mall would operate flawlessly from 1994 to 1997. In 1997, though, began its slow and painful decline. JP Morgan Chase Bank would state that the mall had failed to become a, quote, highly successful retail venture, end quote, and the mall would be foreclosed on, as the developers had failed to pay back their $61 million loan. Ownership would be transferred to Mainland Holding Co., a subsidiary of Chase Bank. The 1997 takeover was described by industry analysts as having suffered from being institutionally owned. The anchor stores in this time would operate as normal as they were privately owned. Throughout the next 5 years, the bank showed little interest in the mall, with almost no improvements and upkeep on the structure lacking. The mall would sell in 2002 to Alliance Retail Group, which aimed to revitalize the mall. At the time, Alliance Retail was also trying its best to revive the dying Greenspoint Mall in North Houston, which we know how that went. So these guys had a lot on their plates. While it wasn't publicly known how much the mall was sold for, it was stated to be less than the cost to build the mall. Alliance Retail was definitely trying, though. They were selling plots of the land that they had purchased around the mall at ridiculously low prices in hopes to attract more standalone businesses, which would in turn attract more shoppers. They also gave up on trying to keep name brand stores in the mall and instead allowed smaller, locally owned stores to move into the mall, as name brand stores were flocking to the nearby Baybrook Mall. In August of 2005, JCPenney announced that it would be closing its doors, delivering yet another costly blow to the mall. Although their efforts had slowed the decline of the mall, it hadn't stopped it. And with a grim future ahead, Alliance Retail, now named the Trier Group, put Mainland along with Greenspoint up for sale in 2006. At the same time, Foley's would convert into a Macy's, as they pretty much all did, in September of that year. The mall would be sold in 2007 to the Brentwood Group. Although Brentwood never publicly disclosed how much they paid for the mall, records show they took out a loan for roughly $13.5 million in January of 2008 to finance the property. Later that year in September, Hurricane Ike made landfall and caused severe damage to the mall. Most importantly, Dillard's, which for some reason was uninsured. The damages to the Dillard's alone amounted to $4 million. The store would close on September 11th ahead of landfall, but would ultimately never reopen. After the hurricane, FEMA would take over the store briefly. This was to coordinate recovery efforts, but after recovery efforts concluded, the store was locked up permanently and it wouldn't reopen for years to come. By 2010, the mall had been considered by locals to be dead. The mall throughout this time was kept afloat primarily by Macy's and Sears, and the ever-declining amount of name-brand stores. It was around this time that mall management started walling over empty stores and painting murals of an active storefront to supposedly give the mall the illusion of being more inviting and open. It wasn't a good look and often received criticism from shoppers, and it was about to get a whole lot worse.
How much water's on the ground?
Probably at least an inch, inch and a half in some places, depends on where you're at. The further you get away from it, where the roof collapsed, the less water you got.
On January 9th, 2012, around 12:50 p.m., a tornado touched down near the mall, and it was headed directly for it. At 1 p.m., it struck the mall, causing significant structural damage to the mall and forcing an immediate evacuation. Although the tornado was only giving a rating of EF0, it was enough to peel back sections of the mall's aging roof, allowing water to pour in and soak the building's already fragile roof. The roof then began to collapse. 2 to 3 inches of water was left standing in the mall as the tornado sat on the mall for minutes. Shoppers were forced to huddle away for over half an hour while they waited for the storm to pass. The mall reportedly only had about 100 shoppers at the time of impact, and luckily, no injuries were reported. Cars were tossed around the parking lot. The roof of the Sears had suffered significant damage, and the roof near the movie theater had collapsed completely. Load-bearing walls were seen sagging, and structural engineers deemed the building unsafe. The mall would bounce back from this really quickly, though, reopening just 4 days later on January 13th with all the damage repaired. The tornado struck the mall just 5 days after Macy's announced they would be closing permanently when higher-ups deemed the store to be underperforming. In March of 2012, Macy's would close permanently, which is ultimately what killed the mall. The mall only, and shockingly still had Sears and Palais Royal. By December 2013, the mall could no longer afford to stay open. The owners of the mall notified the 12 remaining tenants that the mall would be closing permanently on January 31st, 2014. Closing the interior of the mall was ultimately a move to not save money, but also make the mall look more appealing to developers, saving the new owners the headache of eviction. By February 1st, Mall of the Mainland was abandoned. Not much would happen in the mall's time abandoned. I was only able to find one video from this time of a man who managed to get inside. However, he was promptly caught. The mall was up for sale briefly for $8.8 million, but was promptly taken down and relisted and sold in 2015 for $15.5 million to Jerome Karam and his company, JMK5 Holdings. He saw an opportunity to shift the property away from retail mall to a, quote, entertainment and lifestyle hub. With all the former anchors except Sears being vacant, Karam purchased it all, and he got to work. He started by gutting out the former Macy's and leasing out the space to World Gym, which was reportedly the largest one in the country. He also gutted out the JCPenney and leased it to Right Move Storage, converting the space into an indoor storage facility. The whole property was renamed to Shops on the Mainland. The Dillard's was leased out in 2018 to the First Baptist Church. Palais Royal would also move into the former Macy's alongside World Gym. College of the Mainland purchased the second floor of the Macy's as a major satellite hub for vocational and community programs. Sears would announce their closure on the property in 2019, along with the majority of their remaining stores countrywide. World Gym would then take over the former space, leaving Palais Royal to the former Macy's. In 2020, Palais Royal went bankrupt, and they would close too, leaving the Macy's to College of the Mainland, which now owns the whole thing, and they have redone the outside. In 2021, the last remaining part of the original mall would close, the Cinemark Theater that had opened with the mall all the way back in 1991. Premier Lux would take over the old cinema in 2022, and then in 2023, the complex was renamed to Mainland City Centre. Karam had redeveloped the entire property, and the mall was almost completely unrecognizable. The front had been cut into and turned into what they call Restaurant Row, a rather gaudy row of overpriced food in my opinion, but to each their own. A trampoline park now occupied the space between the storage facility and the church. A pre-K through 8th grade private academy now occupied the former interior of the mall behind the college next to the gym. The mall walkways just behind the newly built Restaurant Row was remodeled into a large rentable event space called the Marquee. Pam, the owner of the Marquee, allowed me to step inside for a brief moment to talk about the mall's history and get some quick shots. The space was truly beautiful and perfect for elegant events, but Pam informed me that it's been hard for her. The mall's decline in the first place was caused by its location, and even today that affects the structure's tenants. She says no one knows about them, or don't want their events inside of an old mall. She says it's just hard to get the word out, and rent keeps getting more and more expensive. That brings us to today. Only a small section of the interior is accessible, and what's left of it is rather disappointing. The white theme with the pastel blues and pinks is gone, and has been replaced by shades of beige and brown. The center fountain is surprisingly still on, although the plants around it are gone. The once foliage-lined walkways are gone, and the structure feels dull and cheaply remodeled. It's lost its charm. Karam's vision of a thriving entertainment hub isn't here, and the property just isn't performing the way he wanted it to. Karam also purchased the abandoned Gulf Greyhound racetrack down the street, and that too isn't living up to his wants. The planned concert venue now sits gutted and with a stop work order. As for the mall itself, it too is looming foreclosure and abandonment once again. Reportedly, Karam has been struggling with paying back a $25 million loan. He actively disputed these claims in court and has managed to temporarily halt foreclosure proceedings on the mall and his other properties. So the dead mall is dead again and looming closure. The future of the property is unknown, but for now, you can still walk into some of the former mall and see what remains.